There's a specific kind of person everyone has in their life. Maybe it's you. The one who shows up when the pipe bursts at 2 in the morning. The one who knows exactly what to say when a friend is falling apart on the kitchen floor. The one who can look at a broken marriage, a broken career, a broken family member, and quietly start putting the pieces back in some kind of order. People call you. People text you. People show up at your door with their disasters wrapped in apologies. And somehow you always have something to give them. A solution, a perspective, a hand. You've built a reputation even if you never asked for one. You're the person who fixes things. And then the lights go out in your own house. And you sit there, in the dark, with all the tools in the world spread out in front of you. And you can't move. You can't think. You can't even name what's wrong. The same hands that rebuilt someone else's life last week are now just sitting in your lap, useless. The same mind that solved an impossible problem at work this morning is now blank, frozen. And there's this terrible, quiet question that rises up from somewhere deep inside you. Why can I fix everything except this? Why can I fix everything except me? If that question just hits something in your chest, stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you might be the most uncomfortable thing you've heard about yourself in a long time. And also the most freeing. Before we go deeper, if this channel is the kind of place you want to keep coming back to, the kind of place that talks about the things no one else seems to want to say out loud, take a second to subscribe. It costs you nothing and it tells me to keep making videos like this one. Now let's get into it. The contradiction at the center of your life is almost too cruel to look at directly. You are competent, genuinely, deeply competent. You can hold a crisis in your hands without flinching. You can listen to someone describe the worst day of their life and immediately see 3 possible paths forward. Your brain works, your hands work, your judgment works. People trust you with things they wouldn't trust anyone else with. And yet, when you sit alone at night and try to look at your own life, the same brain that's so sharp for everyone else suddenly goes quiet. The same eyes that see clearly through other people's chaos can't find the edges of your own. You know exactly what you would tell a friend in your situation. You've probably said those exact words to someone else this month. You just can't say them to yourself. You can't make yourself listen. You know what to do. You just can't do it for you. There's a line that lives somewhere inside people like you, and it goes something like this. I can solve everything that matters, except the things that actually matter to me. Read that again, slowly, because that line is the entire architecture of your suffering, and most people who live inside it don't even know they're inside it. They just feel tired, all the time. A specific kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. A tired that comes from carrying everyone else across the river, and then realizing you forgot how to swim. So how does someone become this? How do you end up with so much to give and nothing left to receive? To answer that, we have to go back. Not to a single moment, but to 1,000 small ones. Most people who become fixers didn't choose it. They were trained for it before they had the language to refuse. Maybe you grew up in a house where no one asked how you were doing, because they were too busy surviving. Maybe you had a parent whose moods were the weather of the entire family, and you learned very early to read the sky. Maybe you were the oldest, or the calm one, or the responsible one, or the child who realized that if you didn't handle it, no one would. Maybe you watched a parent fall apart and decided, without even forming the thought into words, that you would never be the person who falls apart. Or maybe the silence was the lesson. Maybe no one was cruel. Maybe no one was even absent in a way you could point to. They were just unavailable in the small ways that add up. And you, being a child with a child's nervous system, did what children always do. You adapted. You figured out that being useful got you noticed. That solving things got you praised. That being the one who didn't need anything made you safe. Because needing things in your house was dangerous. Needing things meant being a burden. Needing things meant disappointment or anger, or that look on someone's face that you spent your whole childhood trying to avoid. So you stopped needing, or more accurately, you learned to hide your needs so well that eventually you forgot where you put them. There's a psychologist named Albert Bandura who talked about something called self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle what's in front of you. And there's another concept called locus of control, the sense that your actions actually shape your life. People like you score off the charts on both of these. Your competence is real, but underneath it, there's something else that the textbooks don't talk about as much. Something called conditional worth. The quiet belief formed before you could even speak that you are loved, valued, allowed to take up space, only when you're producing, only when you're useful, only when you're solving something for someone. Take away the usefulness, and you don't know who you are. Take away the problem to be solved, and you panic. That's not strength. That's a survival strategy wearing a strength costume. And here's where it gets darker. Because if you're still with me, if you're still nodding, then there's something else you need to hear, and it's not going to feel good. If this is landing, do me a favor and drop a single word in the comments. Just one. The word that comes up for you right now. I read them, and it helps me know who I'm talking to. Also, if the video is hitting, a like genuinely helps it reach other people who need to hear this. Now let me say the hard thing. Not every fixer is healthy. Some fixers fix because they love the puzzle, because broken things genuinely fascinate them, because the gap between not working and working is one of the most interesting places in the world. Those people exist, and they're beautiful, but that's probably not you. Or at least, that's not all of you. The fixer in pain does something different. The fixer in pain uses problems the way other people use alcohol, as a way to not be there, as a way to not feel, as a way to keep the inside quiet by keeping the outside busy. When you're solving someone else's crisis, you don't have to feel your own loneliness. When you're being needed, you don't have to face the terrifying possibility that without your usefulness, no one would actually choose to stay. When you're the strong one, you never have to find out what it would feel like to be held. So you keep finding broken things. You keep attracting people who need fixing. You keep walking into rooms full of chaos and thinking, thank God, something to do. Because the alternative, sitting alone with yourself, with no problem to solve, with no one to save, with nothing between you and the silence inside your own chest, that alternative is unbearable. You don't fix problems. You hide inside them. And the people around you can't see it. Because from the outside, you look like the most functional person in the room. You are praised for the very thing that's slowly destroying you. Now let me ask you something. And I want you to actually let this question land, not bounce off. What happens when the problem can't be fixed? What happens when someone you love gets sick and there's nothing you can do? What happens when a relationship ends and there's no clever solution that brings it back? What happens when you lose someone and the loss just sits there, refusing to be solved? What happens when the broken thing is your own grief, your own fear, your own emptiness? The kind of pain that has no manual, no toolkit, no clever workaround. What happens to a fixer when there's nothing to fix? I'll tell you what happens. Because I've watched it, and maybe you've lived it. The fixer breaks, quietly, invisibly. The competence stays intact for the outside world, but inside, something starts to come apart. Because for the first time in your life, the strategy that's kept you safe doesn't work. The thing you've used to manage every single hard moment of your existence is suddenly useless. And underneath that uselessness, you find something terrifying. You find yourself, the self you've been avoiding for 30, 40, 50 years. The self that was never allowed to need anything. The self that learned that being a person, with feelings, with limits, with a body that gets tired, and a heart that gets scared, was not safe. That self is still in there, still small, still waiting. And it doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be met. There's a loop you've been running, probably for as long as you can remember. Someone needs you. You help. You feel useful. You feel briefly okay. The need passes. The okayness fades. Discomfort starts to creep back in. You feel restless, anxious, vaguely empty. So you find another problem. Maybe you wait for one. Maybe you create one. Maybe you take on something that isn't even yours. And the cycle starts again. Help, useful. Okay, empty. Help, useful. Okay, empty. From the outside, this looks like a life of service, a life of strength, a life of generosity. From the inside, it's a person running from themselves at full speed, using other people's problems as the road. And the cruelest part is that you genuinely care. The love is real. The desire to help is real. It's just that under all of that real love, there's also a quiet engine that's been running since childhood. An engine that says, if you stop being useful, you stop being lovable. If you stop solving, you stop existing. If you stop carrying everyone, they will see what's underneath, and what's underneath is not enough. That's the lie, and it's running your life. So what do you do with all of this? I'm not going to insult you with some neat little solution. You'd see through it immediately. You're too smart for that. And honestly, the answer isn't to stop being who you are. Your competence is beautiful. Your care is beautiful. The world genuinely needs people like you, and pretending otherwise would be a different kind of lie. The shift isn't about doing less. It's about something much smaller and much harder. It's about catching the moment, just the moment when you reach for someone else's problem to avoid your own. And instead of reaching, just sitting there, just for a few seconds. Letting the discomfort exist without immediately turning it into a project. Letting yourself feel something that has no solution. Letting yourself be a person, not a function. It's letting one thing in your life stay messy. One feeling stay unresolved. One ache stay unanswered. Not forever. Just long enough to remember that you are allowed to exist when you're not producing. That you don't have to earn your place by being useful. That the small, scared self inside you who learned that needing things was dangerous, that self is allowed to need things now. You don't have to fix that self. You just have to stop running from it. Maybe the truth is this. The world was never the broken thing. You were never broken either. The broken thing was the silence you grew up in. The silence that told you, without ever using words, that your pain was an inconvenience, that your needs were too much, that the only safe way to be a person was to be a person who didn't need to be a person at all. And you carried that silence into adulthood. You filled it with problems to solve. You filled it with people to save. You filled it with anything at all, that would keep you from having to sit in it. But the silence is still there, waiting. And the most radical, terrifying, healing thing you could ever do is finally sit down inside it. Not to fix it, just to listen. You know how to fix everything. You just never learned how to be still when there's nothing to fix. That's the real work. That's the only thing that was ever yours to do. If something in this video found you tonight, leave a comment. Tell me what part hit. I read them, and they shape what I make next. Hit the like button if it helped. It really does matter for the channel. And the video showing on your screen right now is something I think you'll want to see next. Especially if this one cracks something open. I made it for exactly the kind of person who made it to the end of this one. Take care of yourself. Even just a little. Even just tonight.